Hi guys, this is Venus again. And I want to talk to you guys the day I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And it was around when I was about 6, 7 years old. And I remember I was in not middle school, in elementary school. I was in third grade. And I remember there was days where I couldn't breathe right. I was having heavy breathing. And my classmates were like, "Oh, can't you just stop breathing like that? What's wrong with you?" And I remember I told them, "I can't stop breathing like this. I don't feel okay." And I just don't know what's going. I don't know what's wrong. And other times I remember I kept other days or other times I I had to go to the restroom so many times a day. And there was up days that I was peeing peeing myself in class. And I know it, by being a 6, 7 years old, you just don't pee yourself anymore like when you used to be a young child or younger than 7, right? 6, 7. Anyways, I used to go to the restroom a lot and I used to pee myself. But it was against my will though. Like as hard as I tried holding it, it just I just couldn't help it. And after that, I started throwing up, having to run to the restroom and throw up, and it wasn't a pretty feeling. It was difficult. I cried so many times, and I didn't know what was going on with me. And the teacher got upset because of the things that were going on, and because having to go to the restroom so many times, throwing up, even in front of the class, and having a heavy breathing. And I didn't like it, so I guess I could understand my classmates how they felt about that. And there was my teacher had to talk about to my parents about what was going on. And I remember after that, my mom and my stepdad found me on my bed with a whole bed wet on my own pee and sweat. And I was having a heavy breathing. I didn't respond to them. It was bad. And all I was able to do was listening to my mom, having crying and asking what's wrong with you or what's going on. So my stepdad called the ambulance while my mom was trying to have me respond and talk, and I just couldn't. And I remember they had me in the emergency room at the hospital, and my mom was crying so hard and so much. And my stepdad, he was holding having to not cry while he hugged my mom and told my mom to just calm down, that everything would be okay. And I heard my mom saying, "I don't want my daughter to cry. I don't want my daughter to die. And I just don't want anything going bad happening to her and whatnot. I just don't want her gone. She's my daughter, my princess, my everything," she said. And it was pretty difficult. And I was in a coma. And of course, I heard my mom crying, begging for me, and begging the doctors to not let anything bad happen to me. And the doctors were, trying to make me come back, but they just couldn't. So they were pressing on my chest, they were trying to do CPR on me, but having doing CPR on me didn't really help on anything. So they later told my mom that I was in a coma because of high blood sugars and whatnot. I was in a coma for about 4 months or maybe more. I don't know. Around there, I was in a coma for such a long time. And when I woke up, my mom said that the doctors had told my mom and my stepdad that I was a diabetic, and I didn't know what diabetes was. When I was before I got diagnosed with diabetes and all that, I saw a lot of posters that said diabetes and whatever, and I had asked my mom what diabetes was, and all she could do or tell me was that diabetes is when people prick their fingers to make sure their blood sugars are okay, and that they shouldn't eat sugar or something like that. I remember she said, but later when I got diagnosed with diabetes and she said that I had diabetes, and I didn't really know what it was, so I was like, I don't know what it is. What am I gonna do? And how am I supposed to deal with it every day? So the doctors and the nurses tried explaining what diabetes was and how I was able to manage it and whatnot, and how much I was. And they were teaching me the carbohydrate counting, the carb counting, that's what they call it. But didn't really, I didn't really understand how to do that. And to this day, I don't know how to do it. So on a daily basis, I have a specified amount that I inject, and it works for me. Not, it doesn't work for everyone, but for some does. Well, at least for me, it does. Anyway, so I remember my doctor, when the doctor that was helping me with diabetes and the nurses were teaching me how to inject with an orange. I don't know if it happens now, but when I was young and barely got diagnosed with diabetes, they taught me how to inject with an orange. They had an orange with, and they're like, and it wasn't really the insulin that they had me injecting into the orange, but it was water, which is funny. So that's how I was taught how. That's how they were able to teach me how to inject with an orange and the needle, and then with the water instead of the insulin. It was all good. So I was in the hospital for about at least 8 to 9 months, because the coma, and then having the nurses and the doctors teaching me all about diabetes and the management and what I was supposed to eat or not eat. So it was fun. I knew I got to meet the nurses. So they were and the doctors, of course, and they were my friends at that time. So Jamie having nurses friends and the doctors being my friends as well. And I was in the pediatrics section, so I got to meet other kids, but they weren't diabetics, but they were in the hospital for other reasons. So yeah, it was a pretty difficult time having to understand diabetes and the management and everything. So it was difficult, like I said. It was rough, and I didn't understand so many things. And after about 8 to 9 months, or maybe longer than that, being in the hospital, I went back to school and had missed a lot of schooling because I was in the hospital. And I remember too, as soon as I got back to school, I had missed a lot of classwork and everything. So it was pretty difficult having to go back to school after so long and having to readjust to school and learning everything that I had missed. Well, I didn't really miss much because the teacher had the schoolwork sent with my parents to the hospital, so I wouldn't really miss that much schoolwork, and you know. So I guess you can say that I was homeschooled for a while in the hospital. So yeah, after I got back, they were having this. The teacher had the my classmates learned this dance that we were supposed to do um, for like some Christmas thing. So it was fun, and like it was nice having to return back to school and seeing my classmates again. And being in class and whatnot, the nurse had me called to the nurse's office right before lunch to have my blood sugars tested and my insulin injected and whatnot. She helped a lot, the nurse, I remember. She was really nice. Until she had me called for the snacks and whatnot. So my mom was so worried, and she thought I wouldn't be okay without going with going without snacks. So she she had me sent she sent me to school with with a little lunch bag thing with my insulin and my meter and some snacks that the nurse had me called once in a while to eat the snacks, and even before lunch to have to check my blood sugar and inject the insulin and whatnot, which it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it was just a difficult time at that time. So yeah. And but when I was in the hospital and I heard my mom crying that she didn't want to lose me and didn't want anything bad going on with me, it was just so sad. Like, I still remember everything like if it was just yesterday. It was pretty sad. My mom tells me that she remembers when I got diagnosed with diabetes, and she saw me injected my insulin and pricking my fingers. She doesn't mean it in a bad way, but she said to me that every time she saw me injecting my insulin and whatever she says to me that I look like a drug addict because having to inject my insulin on my own and having to learn everything. She thought I looked like that, which she doesn't mean it in a bad way, but it just hurted her seeing me like this, and it still hurts her, and it's difficult for her to see me doing that on a daily basis. And I could understand in a way how she feels, because not every time, but whenever I see kids doing the same thing, whether it's on watching YouTube's videos or just when or things like that, it's just it just I remember when my mom tells me she remembers seeing me like that. She thought, oh my God, my daughter. Just yeah, it's just difficult in a way to see a young child having to go through that and doing all the same thing that I go through and doing the same thing I do on a daily basis, which is hard and difficult because you think to yourself, do I really look like that on a daily basis? Do I really look like that when I do it on my own and people looking at me like, what is she doing? It's just not okay. Well, it's not okay, not for children, not for anybody that does it on a daily basis. It's not okay for anyone to have any diseases like that, whether it's diabetes, cancer, or seizure, or epilepsy, or any of that stuff. It's not okay because you're looking through your own eyes and you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with that person? Or why is she or he doing that? What's wrong or whatever? And through your own, to someone else's eyes, they think, oh, she or he must be crazy, or he or she may be a drug addict, or he or she must have done something in order to get that. But in a way, but in a way, I think it's good if you ask the person what's wrong, or why are they doing that, they will appreciate it a lot more than you assuming anything else without even asking. Because sure, they have to explain to every person that asks them, what's wrong, why are you doing that? It's better if you ask them, even though they have to explain it, rather than you assuming anything else. Because a lot of people just, whenever I check my blood sugar in public and inject insulin, a lot of people look at me like I'm some kind of crazy person and a junkie or a tweaker or whatever. I see them, but in when I see a person's look or hear them behind my back talking, I go up to them and tell them, "Oh, I'm a diabetic. That's why I was doing such and such." And I tell them, but instead of you assuming or saying things, I'd rather you ask me rather than just assuming anything, because it's upsetting, you know? It bothers, well, at least it bothers me when people assume that I'm doing something when it's a whole different story. So it's better if you ask the person why are they doing such thing instead of assuming anything, right? I mean, it's obvious when a junkie's a junkie or a tweaker or whatnot, but what if it's something else and that's why they're doing such thing, you know? So I guess, like I said, in a way, it's better if you ask than assume something, because you never know what the person is going through or whatnot. I'm not saying, or and I'm not putting excuses for everyone, but I'm just saying it's better if you ask the person rather than assume. I'm not sure if you guys are understanding or not, or if you will understand or not, but in a way, it is better if you ask than assume. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about when I got diagnosed with diabetes and all that. So, anyway, I will see you all later, and I love you all. Okay, Venus out. Bye. I'll talk to you guys another time.